everyone. Welcome to the Recreate Your Health Project. Today, I am your host, Miranda Dano, and I am interviewing your other host, Dr. Lauren Beardsley. I'm super excited for this interview, obviously. Dr. B, not only are you one of my closest and dearest friends, you're a naturopathic doctor, which is such a wonderful thing. You and your husband have a little business you might have heard of called Blocks of Health. The thing about Blocks of Health that is so incredible is just like the approach that you and your husband have on just medicine and wellness. It is unlike anything that I have ever seen, and I know randomly a lot of naturopathic doctors. But you guys have this incredible way of creating a space for someone to get control of their health and create a vision for how they want to feel and how they want to care for themselves, and then facilitating the best way for people to get that done. It is such an empowering space to be in with you and to work with you through Blocks of Health. I myself have gone through that process, as you know, as one of your patients, and really evolved from somebody who is struggling on how to best take care of themselves, having a lot of things like daily headaches, stuff like that. And now I'm that person that people come to me for advice on how to take care of themselves. And you really created a place for me to grow into that and to care for myself and really to thrive in a way that is just so special and unique. So what you're doing as a physician is amazing. You also are an incredible role model for your patients. You do all of the things that you talk to people about. You model those things. You have a busy home life and also work and also manage to take care of yourself all at the same time, which is such a beautiful and admirable thing. And like I said, on top of all that, one of my closest friends, Dr. B, so happy to have you here today. Thank you for being my guest.
Oh, lady, I'm just excited to have a great conversation with you. Thank you so much for creating this space and being here with me.
Yes, of course. So let's get into it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to the world of health and wellness?
Yes. And I love this question. I've answered this so many times, and I feel like every time I answer it, it's different. So really with anyone's story, a lot of times there's these moments of like, tragedy or just experience that really is anchored in. It's like this pivotal moment. And in reflecting back on my journey, there's been quite a few of those. So my story has evolved over time. Truly, what drove me into medicine in the first place was growing up. My mother in particular had a very strong sense of just always exploring what was behind something. She's a nurse herself, and anytime I would have any ailments, and I had many as a child, migraine headaches, skin concerns, weight issues, fatigue, to the point where I had to petition to graduate high school. Like, it was a pretty significant concern. And my mom always helped me to at least consider, like, where's this coming from? What's going on? Why is this happening? And I think that was a tiny kind of seed implanted in my mentality of just considering that as I was moving forward, just to consider what was going on. So that then led me into really getting into naturopathic medicine, which truly I wasn't even aware of the school that was within my own state. It was in Arizona at the time. So it was definitely one of those times of, a calling to what I was supposed to do. I founded this school and jumped into the curriculum. I wasn't familiar with homeopathy or acupuncture or any of that at the time, but in getting into that, really realized the power that can offer for people. So loved medicine. And then after graduating, had, a slew of, we'll call it pivotal moments, but just went through some loss, some struggle personally. And that's where my experience and journey with autoimmunity began. I was self-diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroid disease. And at the time it was tremendously devastating because I felt like I was this representation of health. I was leading people and patients, and I, at the same time, was really struggling. And that was a hard kind of place to be, and just truly devastating. I wasn't certain where to go, if I should, give up. There was moments in time where I thought just to give up. So I really began to explore what was underlying for all of that. And through really surrendering to my condition, stepping out of identifying with it and just beginning to rebuild myself, I was, on the journey of where I am today. So, and then through all that, I have had 3 children, and I've, just had a lot of like pivotal moments that continue to contribute to my growth. So there's been no moment in time where I felt optimal entirely. It's been just a constant effort. And I speak that so strongly to my patients, because often we're really wanting to just get out of sickness and healthy, but it's just, it's the journey of, and there's so much richness to that. So yeah, I know that was a long-winded answer, but yeah, my journey, my story continues to unfold, and I welcome, whatever next lesson of opportunity for lesson there will be. So
that's amazing. I would argue, as somebody who has worked with you as a patient, that your journey just makes you that much better as a physician, right?
yeah.
You can relate to me when I talk about having headaches every day, or what it feels like to want to create some, a better health for yourself and for your family, because you've done that work yourself. I mean, at the time, that's how these things work, right? At the time, you're just thinking, I'm a phony, or,
Yeah.
I'm not doing what I say I want others to do. But in reality, that was all just you gaining more and more experience that would help you to serve people in a better way. So
Yeah.
that's an incredible story.
And part of what drove me to create the practice that I'm currently working with is that desire to truly, what I am recommending, I am also living and doing and actively doing every day. So I really am craving just being authentic and offering that to people, so that we can have that kind of relatedness and allow them to grow. So I appreciate you recognizing that. That's a big drive for me.
It's awesome. Such an incredible thing. So in the spirit of sort of being a role model and caring for yourself in a way that you like to teach others about, what are your best practices for health and wellness? What are your top picks?
My top picks, goodness, there are quite a few. And I was considering with this question, if there were any newer ones. I mean, there's definitely like my tried and true. So of late, I've tapped into a lot of just simple practices because so much is in flux, and I'm just, relying on a lot that I've had for years that have been very beneficial for me. So one is really stacking my morning and my night to be for me. So what I mean by that is ending my evening with a moment of solitude, and that can look like reflection or journaling or meditation, or honestly just a moment of peace and quiet on my own, but allowing for me to end my day and enter into like my sleep state with just an overall feel, a vibe that's very in alignment with what I want my life to be, what my purpose is. And that can be gratitude or, confidence, or just like really generating a good feel before I'm going to bed, because I really believe, and I've witnessed how powerful setting that will allow for beneficial morning. Right. So that's one practice that I have so simply done every night. And then in the morning, same thing, waking up. Miranda, as you mentioned, I have 3 littles, or, just a mother. And a lot of times where we have an unanticipated, interruptions. Right.
Yeah.
And so even if it's just with waking, having a moment to yourself to wrap your head around what you want your day to look like, be in alignment with your true purpose, will allow for you to create versus react. And it sounds so simple, but just stacking that has allowed for me to be much more prepared for my day.
I love that. And when it seems like such a simple and easy thing, and people hear it often, but if you consider the trajectory of your life and the path that you're going down, everybody has things that they're trying to work on, and we all get distracted by whatever it is that comes up in our day. It's our kids, or other things that look like opportunities, but really they're kind of just pulling you away from your main focus.
Mhm.
And if you can think about your trajectory through your life, and how you kind of get off track a little bit each day, and you kind of get off track this way a little bit each day, and then if you start every day and end every day getting back in line with what you're shooting for and the path that you're trying to stay on, it's sort of like that little daily course correction to
Yeah.
kind of keep you going towards the same thing. Otherwise, one thing's going to happen and like throw you on an offshoot, right? That gets you totally off track. So I love that. I think it's super helpful. And it works for health, right? Whatever it is
Oh,
you're trying to create for yourself, right?
tremendously, because that will then set me up. I've missed days. I've and startled awake and gone and attended to some emergent situation, and
Sure.
I've realized that then, I don't drink my water and I just pound my coffee, and then I will forget to do my yoga, and I'll just start to make those little decisions that are essentially sabotaging my like healthful day that I know how to make the right decisions, or pardon me, I know the right decisions to make, but I just wasn't set up for success. So those little things can allow for us to be more clear and balanced and make those healthy decisions that we know are right for us. So huge, tremendous
Love
impact.
that. Love that. What's your next best practice for
My
us?
next best practice is, and I speak a lot, I mean, I work with so many patients that are in that autoimmunity, world.
Yeah.
And so much about self-worth and self-respect and self-love and self-care come up because it's this condition where we're essentially like self-destructing, right? Like our body is inappropriately attacking ourselves, which when I first started delving into that just seemed peculiar, just to, have your body go haywire for no reason. So I dive into a lot of all those, the self-worth, self-love, and a big part of that is boundaries and establishing those and what that looks like for you. And something I've been working on over the last few years is really stepping into the courage to voice my needs. And those can look like, I need space to rest, or I need help with creating better meals, or just, reaching out to those in our lives and starting to articulate what my needs are, and establishing those has been really, really powerful to allow for me to be my best self, and just to allow for those around me to help me be that, because we need that. So yeah, I think amongst that is the boundary setting, so that we can put ourselves as priority and start to allow that self-care that's so incredibly necessary for any type of health.
That's incredible. And what an interesting way to think about health and wellness, and a point that a lot of people don't think about and aren't very great at, honestly, the setting of boundaries. Like, in order for me to best take care of myself and my family, I need these certain things in a day. And to be able to speak up about that, and to think of those things not as something that is, a negative or taking away from your family, but more as something that's helping you grow and be the best person that you can be. So what a beautiful, beautiful way to think about that. Any more tips? You want to do one more tip?
I'll do one more tip. There's so many darn tips. I'm going to
I
just
know.
go kind of naturopathic diet on it. And I've definitely in the last few weeks had kind of ebb and flow of what diet has looked like. I am a realist myself. Again, 3 small kids, busy. I don't home cook, beautiful vegan meals all the time. I
Sure.
have frozens, and it's the reality of, but I've really realized and witnessed in myself, when I'm putting in healthy fuel, the better person that I am, and healthy fuel, consistently throughout the day. So making good choices and getting into the habit of setting yourself up for success with just good food around you. That can also look like removing some of the junk. Sometimes we feel in a place of just need for indulgence because we're frustrated
Yeah.
and we're feeling down. But if you can remove some of those temptations and just fill your pantry and your kitchen with good options, and just dive into that has been a huge thing for me over the last month, to really, really allow for me to be my best self, make the best decisions. I'm if you can hear, I'm all about like starting to make those foundational those changes so that everything else doesn't require so much effort. So that's been a huge noticeable thing, practice that I put into place in the last month that's been powerful.
I love that. In the future, we'll have to sort of dive deeper into all of that and how to stay on track with, feeding your body with helpful fuel. And certainly we could talk about that for a long time. So maybe we should a little bit later. Okay. How about, it's such an exceptional time that we're in right now. And so thrilled to have this project to share some messages with people. When you speak to your patients and to your audience now, what do you find that they are mostly needing from you? Like how do people need help from you right now?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And there's been a very common theme of people being fearful, being lost, I can just gain the sense of spiraling out of control. And so my common conversation is reassurance that the work, that a lot of my patients have done up until where we are now has been so, it's been a struggle. It's been challenging for people to build themselves, but just reassuring that all their efforts that have allowed for them to be where they are and to be in control and to stand in command of their healthful state, and know that really nothing can take that away. Nothing can come in and just swipe that from you. It is a state that you've built over time, and you can hold on to that and own that and be confident in that. I mean, there's going to be ebb and flow throughout your journey, but really it's been reassurance that we all have the capacity to heal, to be healthy. Health is our natural state. And if we allow for ourselves to orient to that and focus on health and shift away from fear of losing it, it will just continue to come. So reassurance mainly has been what I've discussed with my patients.
I love that. And, it's is a beautiful sort of segue into my next question, because I'm sure it sort of helped you come up with this idea, right? So the next thing I want to ask you to help people understand is what does Recreate Your Health mean, and why did you choose to start this project?
Yeah. Well, and it just popped into my brain, and as did your face that one day. And I thought, how with our skill sets can we provide value in this moment? How can we take what we have and serve the world? So that was really the spark for me. And as far as the name Recreate Your Health, we all have stories. Every one of us has a story. And knowing that, actually one exercise that I have with my patients is sitting down and drafting their story. And I actually read through it with them, or have them read through it and look for terms that can either be empowering or, victimizing. We just read through and gain a sense of how people relate to their stories and what those mean, and the meaning we attach to events. And then we actually rewrite that story and allow for it to be something that is empowering and something that we can draw from and build from. So the term recreate, I don't want to have people sitting wanting to create something from nothing. It's more so we have this story, and how can we allow for that story to contribute to like what we want to become, and allow for that to just be a part of just the healthiest, most vibrant people that we want to be, and take this moment as this incredible, unique opportunity to just know where we've been, consider where we want to be, and just start to build all of that. Well, that's kind of where that all came from.
I love it. The day that you called and were like, hey, I got this idea. I want to do this project. Can we do this? Can we do this thing? And, obviously it was an instant and enthusiastic yes from me, because I was feeling the same things you were feeling, right? Like, how can I help people right now? This is a hard time. It's a difficult thing. I have skills and things that I've learned that can help people thrive right now and moving forward in their lives. And I want to contribute, right? So here's the other thing that we have in common besides a love for this project is we both work from home with kids sort of running around at our feet constantly. How were you able to find this sort of mission or to hone in on being focused on serving others during this time where there's like so much chaos? There's so many people home right now and zero judgment on wherever you're at. Everybody's sort of adapting differently. But how were you able to take this exceptional moment in history and to use it as a tool to find a way to serve? How could you make that work?
And what's so interesting is the fact that we're building this and doing this now, it truly is what wakes me up in the morning.
Yeah.
Well, part of, and
Yep.
just knowing that I am waking to then build something that is going to be of benefit to however many, that plug in. The act of service and bringing value to the world is like lit me up more in the last few weeks than I've been in the last year. I myself have made a lot of pivots in my personal life, my professional life, just from the like feeding this internal desire to do all of that. And it's been a challenge. I mean, there hasn't been an easy step along the way, but I think because of that, I keep going. And as I've reached out to you and to other experts that you and I have had the opportunity to talk with, and my spouse and just my community, the influx of people interested in serving, like that in and of itself has been so incredibly motivating. And it's like building into this, I don't know, this movement and this shift that I literally just got chills. It's just, yeah, that's what keeps me going. In the beginning, goodness, if it was me alone waking up and trying to do it. And again, this has been my last year, is me just trying to grind it out. I kept falling. But because I talk with you and because we've built this community that will continue to grow and we know we're bringing value and sharing it, that's what's let me dig deep. It's everyone around me. It's you. It's the community, and it will continue to allow for me to dig up whatever I need to make these days happen, because they're crazy.
I love that. And it's such a wonderful sort of practical piece of advice for people that are feeling a little bit stuck right now, right? If you remember who it is that you are trying to serve and how you want to help them, or if this is a time where you can spend a little time trying to figure out who you'd like to serve and how you can help them. It's such a beautiful moment in history to be able to sort of step up for other people. So I love that. Obviously, I'm thrilled to be on this journey with you, and so just honored, really, to make an impact on others' lives with you. So, speaking of others that you make an impact on, when you think about your most successful patients, just to bring it back to the health space a little bit more, health and wellness space, when you think about your most successful patients, what do you think? What traits do they embody that help them get to that place of better health? How can our listeners sort of think about changing the way they think about caring for themselves to start to get to a better place?
Yeah. And so many things come to mind, but I have beautiful patients that I am inspired by all the time. And I think one of the biggest traits that they carry is willingness, is openness, is the, just the willingness to step into something that might feel unfamiliar or uncomfortable and begin to explore that. Because a lot of the patients that I work with and a lot of alternative practitioners work with, they are those that have tried a lot of stuff, that they're on there. And so many times in my intakes, it'll say, "You're my last effort," or "I've done everything." And, to them, it feels so hopeless, this space that they're in. And I just really start to talk about, how open are you? How willing are you to start exploring different things, to start talking about things differently? Because where you've been hasn't served you. So let's just start to do that. And it sometimes requires some teasing out or some cultivating that willingness, but a lot of people come into it with that because of just where they're at, the hopelessness. So willingness to step in and do whatever it takes and be engaged in the process is huge.
I love that. I really do. And just changing your mindset to, how do I fix this problem?
Yeah.
From that to something that is more like, I'm open to make changes to create something different, is such a better way to think about things, and such a more productive way to think about things. So I love that idea. Staying in the healthcare topic, because of everything that's happening in our community, like just around the world right now,
Mhm.
what do you see is going to be sort of like a big shift for just the health and wellness landscape? Is there
Mhm.
anything that you're foreseeing that is going to kind of change for us?
Well, definitely telehealth. I mean, that's everyone's stepping into that just out of pure necessity right now. So
Yeah.
that's been a huge shift. And I've had the fortunate, the luxury of being already in this space and continuing to grow. But a lot of my colleagues are offering those services, and there's been a little resistance on is the connection going to be there? Is there going to be any difficulty with that? But I really think people, patients and practitioners both, are realizing the connection that can exist, and the likely more accessibility to care that will be available. So that's one thing that I think will be really huge. And I also think people, consumers, lay people, individuals, are starting to plug into what's important to them. And we're realizing that health is a huge priority, that we need to put that as a huge priority, because without that, we have nothing. So I feel like a lot of people are just starting to search for whatever that means for them. And there's just so much online that they can use to build that up. So I think it's just it's a great, great time. And I'm actually thrilled to see everyone plugging in. And I've been waiting for this. It's like, yay, people are really excited to be healthy, because so much
Yeah.
of the time I'm trying to convince people, okay, health is important, make sure you're considering this. But now it is what the number one thing that's Googled, which is
Yeah.
wonderful. So I think there's gonna be a shift of people just wanting to step into exploring what health means to them, taking charge of that. And I'm thrilled to see what comes from that.
That's awesome. So, in the spirit of thinking about people that are Googling how to, whatever, have better thyroid health, how to lose weight, how to have more energy, whatever it is that people are working on, and what they're dealing with as far as their health and wellness is concerned, you know, how can you help people, or what advice do you have for people that aren't sure where to start? Like, if I could Google, how to be healthier, and I would get so many different messages. How can
Mhm.
someone, how can your patients and our listeners figure out what is actually going to be right for them?
Mhm. Well, and that's what's so hard. I often say there are plentiful resources, but a limited amount of resourcefulness. Much
Yeah.
that exists out there. It's overwhelming. People don't know what to do and what diet to jump into and what book to read. So it's hard. And seeking out experts and that you trust is huge. But really, what I've found over the last decade of working with people is there are some steps to take to set you up for success in whatever protocol you dive into. Because there are patterns to protocols, and there's a lot of good with that. But if you're not setting yourself up, every protocol is going to fail, and it's not the fault of whomever created the protocol. Like, there's all these experts that are pumping out incredible information, but if you're not set up to receive that and implement that into your life, it's not going to work. So what I created was, and I have a free training that I'll have linked to this interview, but I put together I compiled the basic practices for every patient that I walk patients through, step them through before we jump into the how-tos and before we jump into what we're going to do, to just kind of set the scene and allow for all the work that we're going to put into place to be more beneficial for them. And what that includes is, drafting your health story and discussing the motivations in your why, and really drafting out, where you want to go and what you want to be, a lot of goal setting. So there are specific exercises, and I've kind of put them all into one that I'll have available for all of our listeners to just put into place, and then jump into the how to. If there's a protocol that you have that you've tried and you want to revisit, I truly believe that these steps will allow for that to then be more successful for you.
Awesome. So it's like a universal sort of tool that people
Yep.
can use to sort of like lay the groundwork for
Yep.
success in whatever path that is that feels right for them, right? Like I want to try doing this, or I need to focus on this.
Yep.
And you're saying use this as a tool to have as much success as possible through whatever path makes sense for you. Is that
Yes.
right?
And it's my step-by-step for private coaching for those that work with me privately. It's what we go through in the beginning. So I just thought it'd be a nice thing for people to have access to and consider, the concepts and the questions, talk through it and start there. Yeah.
Awesome. So at the beginning, I sort of told people a little bit about Blocks of Health and your unique style when it comes to, lifestyle medicine. But can you tell our viewers in your own voice what your unique message is?
Oh, I love that. And as far as Blocks of Health and how I transitioned into coaching, I really, from a clinician standpoint, I love diving into diagnostics and explaining testing and all the pathophysiology behind, disease states. So I love explaining that and having the patients I work with be confident in, we have that under control. We know what's going on. We know what to do to manage that. Set that aside. Let's start building what you want health to be for you. So it's kind of this dual system that I have put into place because in previous practices, I was getting frustrated with that whole illness to wellness spectrum. Once I would get people to resolution of symptoms, there was so much more I wanted to do, but how I was practicing wasn't allowing me to get there. So now I've created some programs and different ways of working with people to, have that symptomatic resolution and then keep going, because there's just a lot more of healthy life to go. So that's a bit behind Blocks of Health. And as far as my message to people and what I constantly communicate to my patients is, our natural state is that of health. And truly we have not only the capacity to, the power to be in command of that, but we have a responsibility to be in command of that. We are the captains of our ship. And really, I encourage people to be willing and open to that concept and then begin to step into directing your health, because you are your own expert and you can be and you should be. And that is where I have witnessed transformation happen. So truly just take command of your health. That's my message.
Oh, God, it's so good. And as someone who worked in the naturopathic health space for a while, like I did, you just have so many conversations with people that can't figure out how to feel better. They can't figure out how to handle whatever concern it is that is theirs. And it is such a beautiful and wonderful thing to see people kind of take that turn and start to feel more comfortable and feel more confident in their bodies, feel good about taking care of themselves and seeing some progress. It is just such a wonderful and beautiful thing. And the way that you do it with your unique energy and love and grace for people, but also kind of calling me on my nonsense when I need to, like that, just, it's a wonderful combination that is so effective and makes the whole process feel like less work and more like, hey, I'm doing this thing, right? And it's just such a beautiful thing. So thanks for doing that for me and for on behalf of all the people that get to work with you. I'm sure they feel the same way. So real quick, I want to mention before we end our interview today that you said you have your special gift. We'll make sure that there's a link for any of our listeners if they want to take a look, which they should, for whatever it is that they're working on in their health and lay that foundation to succeed. So we'll make sure that that's included. But Dr. B, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for being here. As always, you have incredible health and wellness advice that is unique from what other people are talking about and just always hits me right at my heart. So thank you for bringing that again for me and for our listeners.
Thank you for having me.